The streets of hip-hop are on fire, ladies and gentlemen. Jim Jones, who once strutted through Harlem like a king, is reportedly crying after receiving a bombshell so wild and outrageous that even Maury Povich would have screamed, "You are not the father." Or are you sure? Trust me, you are not ready for this one. Jim's longtime partner and reality TV Ride or Die star, Chrissy has been embroiled in the most scandalous scandal of the decade, according to shocking new reports. It may or may not have been smuggled out of a courtroom by a shady intern with a bad Wi-Fi connection. Jim recently discovered that Chrissy had been concealing a secret child the entire time. Get your popcorn and buckle up, because what I'm about to tell you will make love and hip-hop look like a Disney film. This is the scandal of all scandals, and we're diving in. Audacity is the most shocking betrayal in hip-hop to date. Is this the last nail in the coffin for the Dipset dynasty? And most importantly, how did it even happen under Jim's nose? The courtroom, that was meant to quietly handle yet another celebrity drama, abruptly turns into the scene of the most shocking betrayal Harlem has ever witnessed. Jim Jones, Dipset royalty Mr. We Fly High, isn't flying at all right now, according to our highly trustworthy sources, and by that I mean completely. The cameras are flashing all the way in right now, and the whispers turn to gasps. According to dubious sources close to the matter, Jim has just crumbled under the weight of a reality that no amount of street cred or ice swagger could protect him from. As a result, the rapper-turned-businessman is reportedly crying into his Louis Vuitton scarf. It's 2 words, Chrissy Elkin. Yes, Chrissy. The woman who supported him through label wars, tours, drama, and enough reality shows. Reports from what can only be described as the most chaotic court hearing since Cardi B pleaded guilty to throwing shoes at strippers claim that Chrissy has fought to make us look tame. The woman whose loyalty was supposed to be unmatched, and the woman who literally proposed to Jim on national television in what is still one of VH1's most paused moments. Been keeping the biggest secret, not a side project, a dubious LLC, or even a burner Instagram account? No. We're talking about a whole child, a whole human being, who was allegedly kept secret from Jim, the world, and most likely even the producers of Love and Hip Hop. I know what you're thinking. But believe me, how Jim was blindsided during testimony by shocking documents, alleged text message receipts, and hold on to your wigs, a supposed paternity report that had Chrissy's name all over it. Those in the know reportedly read the janitor, who overheard everything while sweeping outside the courtroom, but had eyes and ears everywhere. Jim and Chrissy have been the couple of chaos, from Harlem block parties to Love and Hip Hop. They practically invented the blueprint for We're Toxic, but make it iconic through breakups, makeup, and oneg. For those of you who are too young or living under a rock to remember the Dipset era, bless your millennial hearts. Here's the backstory you need to understand just how wild is. Then, in what witnesses called the most brutal courtroom clapback in history, Cameron, also known as Killer Cam, the petty king of hip-hop, and the man who chose to put gasoline on this already blazing dumpster fire, entered the scene. Off-again drama, missed weddings, matching tattoos, and public arguments. That had fans screaming, "Just marry her already." Because, let's face it, if Cameron is in the room, something messy is about to happen. According to reports, slid into the courtroom like a pink mink wearing a Grim Reaper and showed the receipts on Chrissy's alleged betrayal. Cameron reportedly said dramatically, pulling out an envelope as if he were at the Source Awards, The evidence presented purports to demonstrate that Chrissy was secretly involved with another man years prior. And that relationship is what our anonymous legal insider says is going to explain why my brother Jim has been acting as though he was living in a love story when, in reality, he was starring in a daytime soap opera. The courtroom apparently erupted like it was the BET Awards, and someone announced Beyoncé was pregnant again. You could hear the gasps and stifled sobs. The sound of Jim's entire legacy cracking like a cheap iPhone screen after a bad drop. This is not just some random messy rumor Jim never knew existed. And who could be? He wore designer sunglasses and muttered to his lawyer, "I can't believe this." And for him, loyalty isn't just a word. It's his brand and his entire persona. Having his most trusted partner as his ride or die, he allegedly kept this kind of devastating secret. Simply put, it was character assassination in broad daylight. And if you think the courtroom was rocked, just think of how quickly the internet screenshots leaked. Social media was a war zone, with TikToks, Twitter, and hashtags all over the place, and fake relationship experts who somehow earned a master's degree in dipset drama were all over the place. One Twitter user summed up Chrissy's secret child perfectly. Jim Jones discovering that Chrissy has a secret child is the plot twist we didn't know we needed in 2024. While fans were busy trying to figure out timelines and do celebrity paternity math. Was this before the show or after during season 3? James vanished from public view according to sources. He canceled all appearances, ducked out of a scheduled club hosting gig, and unfollowed Chrissy on Instagram. In 2024, unfollowing someone is essentially filing for divorce, and Chrissy has remained silent, not a single post comment or peep, which has only increased the rumors because, as any competent fake news investigator knows, even Cameron, who is typically the king of shady Instagram captions, has kept idly low-key, but believe me, if history is any indication, he's just loading the next round of petty for the perfect moment. Now, everyone is left wondering how the hell Jim didn't know how a man does. The judge slammed the gavel down and said sharply, "We are adjourned until tomorrow morning." Further evidence and witness testimonies will be presented. Surrounded by cameras, friends, and haters miss a secret this big. Is this the ultimate betrayal? Or is there more to this story than we've been told? This is where things take an even darker turn. The morning after was anything but calm, and by sunrise, the courthouse had turned into the hottest circus in town, complete with reporters, bloggers, TikTok detectives, and every other person. The crowd burst into stunned chatter as reporters and paparazzi stormed the courthouse steps like wild animals. Inside the courthouse, tensions were at an all-time high. Jim Jones arrived with his legal team, a hoodie pulled over his head, sunglasses on, and a face that said one thing: "I did not wake up for this, Chrissy." The atmosphere was electric, chaotic, and unquestionably messy, just as the internet likes it. Cameron was nowhere to be seen. He arrived fashionably late, dressed in a bright pink tracksuit, and exuded what could only be described as "I told you so" much energy. When the court resumed, Judge reminded everyone to keep their cool and warned that any outbursts would not be allowed. Which obviously meant nothing because the atmosphere was too messy, gossipy, and scandalous. Then came the next shocking revelation: the prosecution, supported by unnamed sources who allegedly included a resentful ex-friend and a hairstylist who overheard everything, claimed to have unquestionable evidence of Chrissy's alleged double life. Exhibit A purportedly contained leaked private text messages between Chrissy and a man who was only identified in court documents as Mr. X. The documents claimed that Mr. X and Chrissy had reignited an old romance around the time that Jim and Chrissy were purportedly planning their wedding. The texts were filled with cryptic flirtations, discussions of private meetings, and the now famous line that sent Twitter into a complete meltdown: "He can't, no, not yet." The entire courtroom gasped, including Cameron, who had raised an eyebrow and said, "Jim?" Jim reportedly froze, looking as though he had just been struck by a sledgehammer of betrayal. His lawyers frantically whispered as the prosecution continued to reveal their so-called mountain of evidence. He spent the majority of the morning scrolling through his phone as if he was utterly bored. Next came the according to those alleged bank records. Chrissy had been sending sizable sums of money each month to a private trust established in a minor's name. The prosecution contended that Chrissy was providing financial support for a child Jim was unaware of, while the defense contended that the payments were for private family matters and charitable contributions. But the harm had already been done. By social media, conspiracy theorists on TikTok were already in full swing. They pieced together timelines, compared old love and hip-hop episodes, looked for suspicious gaps in Chrissy's Instagram posts, and even compared Mr. X's baby photos to try to prove resemblance. One TikTok post went viral, boldly declaring, "Look, at that nose, it's genetics, babe." As the circus raged online, Jim sat silently with no tweets, posts, or even a passive-aggressive mood meme. Some fans started posting side-by-side photos of Jim from years ago versus now with captions like, "This man has aged 15 years overnight. Prayers up." The comments were a complete mess, with over 2 million views in less than 8 hours. 8 hours. Post a boomerang of himself drinking tea with the caption, "Patience is everything." However, back in court, things were about to get even wilder when the next witness, a former friend of Chrissy's who was protected by Jane Doe status, testified that Chrissy had allegedly confided in her years prior. Jane Doe continued by accusing Chrissy of justifying the secrecy by stating, "I couldn't risk him finding out. It would ruin everything," about an accident that resulted in a child and how she had no plans to ever tell Jim. The courtroom audibly gasped again, and the judge banged the gavel twice, for the first time since the scandal broke. Jim reportedly looked up and stared straight ahead, his face unblinking. And he was afraid that the truth would destroy not only their relationship, but also their lucrative reality TV deals, endorsements, and public image as the couple. This wasn't just betrayal. The rumors outside the courtroom had turned into full-fledged media storms, with tabloids screaming headlines and the baby bombshell that finally exposed Jim Jones's darkest secret. The memes were merciless. One viral hit featured Jim's famous "Fly High" video with the caption changed to "Cry High," while another featured Mona Scott Young. While the public laughed, the defense, evidently shaken, argued that none of the evidence proved anything definitively. The alleged texts were taken out of context. The payments were charitable family support. The witness testimony was untrustworthy. Hearsay, and the devil horns were allegedly planning how to spin this into 10 new Love and Hip Hop episodes. Fans loved it. The courtroom was electric as reporters frantically typed notes. Courtroom sketch artists captured every dramatic reaction, and fans outside were live streaming in the hopes of catching even a shadow of Jim or Chrissy walking. The judge said that more witnesses would be heard the next day, including a potential appearance from Mr. X himself, from a former friend who had turned opportunist. The world waited for Mr. X to arrive and finally reveal the truth, for Chrissy to break her silence, for Jim to even recover from this, for Cameron's petty reign to continue, and for Jim to leave without saying anything. In or out, Jim stood slowly, pulled the hood back over his head, and left without speaking to anyone. Cameron trailed behind him, wearing a sly smile that suggested he had one more surprise in store. The media called the court date judgment Day for Dipset. Supporters gathered with placards that read, "Jim, blink twice if you're okay." Another cruelly read, "Chrissy had a whole side quest, and Jim didn't even get the side mission notification." Then, as if the gods were in charge, when the unconfirmed news flashed across everyone's phones that Mr. X was on his way to New York to testify, the streets went crazy. According to reports, helicopters were already airborne, security was doubled, and the internet did what it does best. It made wild accusations and predictions. Day 3 of the trial was just hours away, and as the sun set over New York City, the only question on everyone's mind was whether Jim Jones would lose not just his relationship, but his entire legacy. The fans didn't have long to wait, as the countdown had begun with screenshots and, of course, memes. The world waited in suspense as the phony experts got ready to flood the courthouse once more. The scandal wasn't slowing down. In fact, it was about to blow up again. The sun rose over Manhattan, but the city felt heavier and darker, as if even the concrete knew what was going to happen. Crowds had already gathered outside the courthouse at dawn, and some people skipped work. Influencers from other states were streaming live from the steps, TikTokers were rehearsing their shocked facial reactions, and news vans were lining the block. On the third day of the trial, which was officially renamed The Day Mr. Her Ex Arrives, an unmarked black SUV pulled up, and when the door opened, a tall, sharply dressed man wearing a navy suit and dark glasses emerged. The crowd gasped, thinking that this might be him at last. Was this the enigmatic Mr. X? The reporters frantically pushed microphones at him, but he said nothing. He just straightened his tie and entered the building. Jim Jones was sitting in the courtroom, silently, with his lawyers by his side. His hood was gone, and his face was bare and exhausted. This was not the bigger the judge entered, called for silence, and the final day of testimony started when Mr. X took the stand. The gallery leaned forward as if they were watching the pieces of Harlem Hustler's life fall apart. A moment later, Cameron walked in wearing a Dipset varsity jacket and a look that said, "I live for this mess." The gasps came exactly as Mr. X, who was about to hear the verdict of a murder trial under oath, confirmed that he had known Chrissy for years and that their relationship had once been more than just friends, claiming that during a brief but intense affair many years ago, Chrissy became pregnant and gave birth in secret. He declared that he had respected her wishes, but had always been involved in the child's life from a distance. The courtroom sat in stunned silence as Jim Jones looked up for the first time in hours, and his eyes locked on the man who had told him the truth. Out of fear that it would ruin their relationship and her career, Mr. X then disclosed what sent Twitter into a tailspin. He claimed to be the father of the child his own fiancée had concealed, whispering, "I gave her everything." He said that he and Chrissy had signed a private legal agreement to keep everything secret, including Chrissy's monthly child support payments. There was a document that was allegedly so secret that even Jim's own lawyers were unaware that it existed. And yes, the court had a copy. As soon as the news broke, the crowd outside erupted, and within seconds, memes about Chris's secret child, Mr. X or Jim Jones's trial went viral. One post featured Jim Jones's Dipset chain edited with the words "trust issues" rather than "diplomats." Meanwhile, back inside, the defense rushed to protest, claiming that the documents were not authenticated, that Mr. X was pursuing fame, and that everything he had said was a well-crafted lie intended to undermine a well-known couple. However, the damage had already been done, and the court of public opinion had already issued its decision at lunchtime. Jim left the building, surrounded by security cameras that recorded the moment the judge addressed the elephant in the room. As proceedings resumed, although this case was officially still a civil dispute, the shocking evidence presented had drawn the attention of state and federal investigators. Chrissy was nowhere to be seen, but Cameron emerged eating a hot dog and waving to fans like he was walking a red carpet. Rumors of fraud, money laundering, and unreported child support funds began to circulate like vultures. And several record labels started to quietly withdraw their contracts with Jim's sponsors. Reality TV producers discussed whether to cancel or intensify the next season, and the fallout was occurring in real time by the end of the day. Jim's lawyer asked the judge to grant an emergency adjournment so that they could review the new evidence and prepare a defense against possible criminal exposure. The judge said that the court would meet again in 2 weeks, but the headlines couldn't wait. Jim Jones, the hip-hop icon, claimed victory as he spiraled into a career crisis. And Chrissy's child bombshell may bring down the Dipset empire. Of course, social media had its own interpretation. A popular TikTok thread dubbed Jim the new Tristan Thompson of hip-hop sparked a debate on Twitter about whether Chrissy had been playing the long game for years. Some fans asked for forgiveness, while others said that Jim was done. As the courtroom cleared, Jim reportedly stood for a few seconds before leaving by himself. Cameron allegedly walked by and laughed under his breath. The most dramatic courtroom drama in recent hip-hop history ended abruptly, but the aftershocks had only just started. The following morning, the Dipset merch store mysteriously went offline, and Jim's social media accounts remained silent. His breath told you. No one knows if Jim heard it or not. She finally broke her silence by sharing a mysterious black square without a caption, which only served to increase rumors about whether it was an apology, a power move, or a farewell. Meanwhile, Cameron hosted a surprise Instagram live event called Petty Wins Again, in which he gave his followers a recap of the entire drama while sipping tea and listening to background instrumentals. He concluded the stream with one the story dominated headlines for weeks. And every blogger, podcaster, and couch detective had a theory. Finally, I didn't have to find out on TMZ because legal experts weighed in on every media platform. Could Chrissy be charged with fraud? Could Jim sue for emotional damages? Would Mr. X now seek custody? Fans wondered. There are currently no definitive answers. Chrissy is still silent, Jim is still missing, Cam is still Cam, and the world is still glued to the mess. So, do you think Chrissy is the ultimate villain, or is there more to this story? Nobody knows if Jim was caught off guard or if he ignored warning signs. Will Cameron ever grow weary of being the king of petty spoilers? There isn't a doubt that is just the beginning. There will be more leaks, receipts, and courtroom drama. You won't want to miss it. Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. Which side are you on? Thank you for liking this video, smash the subscribe button, and turn on notifications. I promise you'll want to be the first to know when the next bombshell drops. Don't get too comfortable because this story is far from over. We want to hear your wildest theories in the comments sec.